always am able to see the blessings in my life. I think that if you look for things that are going wrong, you'll see a lot of things that are going wrong. But if you look for things that are going right, you'll see those as well. So I encourage everybody to look for the blessings in their life. And with that, we'll start with a prayer. Dear Lord, please be with us tonight as we gather to make decisions on behalf of our community. Please help us to always keep in mind those people that are struggling and have a difficult time of making it through these hard times. Help us to make the best decisions possible for the benefit of our whole community. Amen.
Amen. Mike, can we do the pledge? Sure, thank you, man. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll start with summary of current events, and Mariano, we'll start with you.
Two things, one public and one other is personal. I had occasion to attend two different government meetings in the last few days, and I was visiting town of Miami last night, and the other day I visited the Tri-City Sanitation District meeting. I want to tell the public that there's a lot happening in this community, and if you want to know what's happening, it behooves you to try to get to those meetings, whether it's on Facebook or face-to-face. You'll learn a lot about these entities that are trying to improve our future. Some have grants, others are struggling, but all in all, there's a lot of activity going on, not just within the city of Globe. So take the time, go to a meeting, be there in person, and meet the people who represent you, and they're dying for comments and suggestions. So please, make it a point to get out there. And the second thing is, I want to thank all the well-wishers who gave condolences on the death of my sister, Alice Martinez, who was a long-time employee of the U.S. Postal Service here in Globe. And of course, my parents just moved into a house with me. And it was actually a pleasure to get them to the funeral services and then to be with them for the last few days. They've been kind of down, but they're starting to cheer up. They've had a long, hard year, from injuries to a house fire and now death, and doing my best to keep them cheered up. And I want to thank all the public out there who have helped us on this long journey. So I really, really appreciate all of your input, your condolences, and every one of those cards. I read them off to my parents so they know that this community is behind them. So thank you very much for all of that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mariano. Fernando?
Well, I just want to acknowledge that we got a chance to go on Monday to Superior to visit with Ruben Gallego, Congressman from Phoenix, who took Ed Pastor's congressional seat. And he was very instrumental in helping us get some grants that were really important for the city of Globe. And so we thanked him for that. And it's exciting to see what the town of Superior is doing with that school. It's much better to see it go in the hands of the city and become a community asset versus it rotting. And so just exciting to do that. And it was good to see Ruben, and hopefully he will be able to help us again in the future. Oh, the other thing I'd like to thank the city, because the gentleman whose house we're having the demo, I was kind of hoping that we could get him in there to get his stuff, and I was able to help him a little bit and get his stuff, most of his stuff out. So thank you for following through with that and let us get in there.
Thank you. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, in our package tonight, when Rael left them on our desk about what goes on at the library, February 15th, there's going to be a Veterans Benefits presentation. Let's see, Dana West of the Central Outreach Coordinator will be there to make a presentation, and I believe it's Thursday at 9 o'clock on the 15th. So any veterans out there that want to find out what's available to them, they might want to check that out. Thank you.
And what was the time, Mike, again?
It's at 9 o'clock on Thursday, February 15th.
Thank you, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Mike?
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a few things. I did hear today that we lost an individual here in town, Ray Irvin, passed away yesterday. Yeah, I talked to, not Don himself, but an acquaintance of ours. and he said his father did pass away yesterday, so I know he is a long-time person here in town, so keep the Irvins in your prayers. And then I want to congratulate, might be a little ahead of time, but two firefighters, Michael Peterson and DJ Bollinger, are both retiring from the fire department with a combination of 60 years of service. At least 60, right now? 60 years?
Probably at least.
Yeah. So I just want to congratulate them. It's almost impossible to replace something like that. So good luck, Chief. But the well wishes to both of those gentlemen. So thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Just had the privilege to co-host the Legislative Day on the 18th down at the League of Cities. That was the largest crowd we had. They had 3 different COGs there throughout the state, which means 3 different groups that with interest, in different organizations. They probably had over 100, 120 people that attended. Like I said, the biggest one that I've seen in the past couple of years that I've been attending. And we also had the biggest crowd of legislators that came to lunch and actually stayed there and talked to us. I think they were there at least an hour and a half. We had 12 legislators that came, listened to some of our concerns, and so it was a good meeting because we just started the legislative hearings, and we need to keep our eye on, and we get monthly or every Monday we get updates on them that we can tune in and hear what's going on, and we need to keep track of what's going on and what's affecting rural cities in Arizona, because there's some things coming back that could affect us that we need to be in opposition of. So it's important that we get tuned in for that. We also have Globe Clean and Beautiful, and I think that day is, what's the date on Globe? 26th, 27th, and 28th. So there's flyers out there. There'll be containers, different areas of the city in order to throw your garbage, but there's some rules into areas where you have to dump them. So keep your eye out. It's posted on social media. I'm sure it's in the paper. It's on radio. So get the information for these 3 days for cleanup. That's all I have.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, enjoying the little bit of weather that we've had a couple past weeks. It keeps staff on their toes, and but everything's been going really well and responding to that. So staff is working hard, but no additional updates. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have our first community call to the public. Do we have anybody? I have no call cards. Anybody online?
No, nothing online. No.
Okay, next on the agenda is presentations. We have none on those either. So we'll move on to consent calendar, and consent is matter listed on the consent calendar considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion, one vote. Public hearing items are designated with an asterisk. Prior to consideration of the consent agenda, the mayor will ask whether any member of the public wishes to remove a public hearing item for separate consideration. Members of the council and or staff may remove any item for separate consideration. Item 4A is consideration of waiver of section 2-4-10A prior discussion rule to allow action on the balance of the consent agenda. Accounts payable, $694,274.48. Consideration of approval of council minutes, January 9th, 2024, meeting minutes. Consideration of agreements and purchases less than $25,000. And Globe City Council will discuss and consider number MOU-2024-0063, Memorandum of Understanding with Tonto Basin Fire District to administer the Gila County online fire learning platform. Do we have anybody from the public, the staff, or council wishing to move any of these items separately?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to, I have a couple of questions on the accounts payable report.
Okay.
Mayor, I would move to approve the consent agenda minus the accounts payable.
Second.
Motion a second for approval of the consent agenda minus item A1, accounts payable. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion passed. Go ahead, Mike.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, on page 2 of the report, the vendor is Billie Jean King, ceremony burden basket. That's not the tennis queen, is it?
No, and Mr. Mayor, members of council, Councilman Pastor, that was actually a unique purchase we did to enhance the Victims Advocacy Center. And it's from a Native American San Carlos artist, something we wanted to kind of decorate the facility and give it some cultural flair and make something that tribal children may recognize and make them more comfortable.
I thought maybe we were gonna get tennis lessons out of it.
Yeah, no,
Community centers.
no, but
And then on page 11, there's a disbursement to the United States Treasury for a fine on taxes that we didn't pay?
correct. There was one payroll sometime in 2020 where we were late on submitting our FICA and Social Security. This is in the heart of COVID. We worked with them to try to make amends, but in the end we decided to just pay that. About $200. That $900 fine is a fee, interest payment.
Okay.
And but I do know that well, I mean we've had such turnover in the department. I don't believe that the person that made that mistake is still with us.
Yeah.
And
It just caught my eye, was
yeah.
confused when I thought,
Yeah,
okay.
no, it's we like I say, we usually we can negotiate some of those things, but sometimes we're just like anybody else and a lot going on. So
Okay, with that, Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion that we accept consent agenda item 4A1.
Second.
Got a motion and a second for approval of item 4A1. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. New business, item 5A, the council will discuss and consider approval of grant application number GS-57-24-05036 to the Attorney General's Office in the amount to be determined that will be utilized to support the operations of the Copper Hills Family Advocacy Center. Lieutenant Williams.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. Basically, this is a grant that we've applied for and been approved for in the last at least 2 years. So we were notified recently that grant application was due. So what this grant, as you said, Mr. Mayor, is from the Arizona Attorney General's Office. It's a no-match grant, and it's very wide open or unlimited on what we can use the money for. What it will be used for if we are awarded this grant are mostly we use it for office expenses, training expenses, and also any upgrades to the Family Advocacy Center. The amount that this grant's a little bit different, so we don't submit it on a specific amount. The amount we're awarded is based on our needs and usually prior victim numbers that we've served in the past, so we're not exactly sure how much, if we're awarded any money, how much that'll be. And of course, if we are, we'll come back to the council at that time for approval to receive this grant award. So I'm asking the council if they would forward a motion to grant our, or to approve our grant application for grant number GS-24-57-05036.
Lieutenant, is there a deadline? Do we need to waive the rules on this? Because this is on new business first.
No, we, because there was such a short deadline, we actually already submitted. We were forced to submit that in advance.
So this is a ratification?
ratification.
Yes.
So it'd be ratification and
It would still come back, because if we got
Yeah, we
awarded,
can-
would
and
just
I
allow
would-
them to apply.
I would recommend that we do move it to the next meeting. We'll bring back with the proper language. Okay. And ratify.
So we're gonna table this?
No, we have waive the rule is to waive a second reading,
Oh,
so
sorry.
we're not gonna waive the rule, which means that it comes back in 2 weeks, and so they'll motion to move it forward, so, it will have no impact, and And my apologies, I knew, I was aware that we were applying for this, and I didn't catch this on the agenda, that we are in fact, ratifying this, so my apologies for that.
We'll just ratify it next week.
Well, yeah, we'll bring it back, and then we'll get the wording right, and then we'll finish it off, but it shouldn't impact anything.
Okay.
Just a comment, Mr. Mayor. People are still surprised that we have a family advocacy center. I tried to talk it up, and I am surprised that people are not aware that we have this capability now. I'm really pleased to help it along, and I hope it continues for a long, long time. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
I'd
Any other
like to make-
questions?
I'd like to make the motion, Mr. Mayor, where's it at?
5A.
For 5A, to consider approving the grant application GS 57240506-036 to the Attorney General's office in an amount to be determined that will be utilized to support the operations of the Copper Hills Family Advocacy Center.
Second?
A motion, a second, for approval of item 5A. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Motion passed. Thank you, Steve. Item 5B, council will discuss and possibly consider the approval of the 2024 City of Globe Bed Tax Distribution Request Process Changes memo dated January 23rd, 2024. Paul.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, we have, since I've been city manager, it started in 2016, the bed tax organizations have been a key group of people that have helped to support tourism in the city of Globe. We've had a bed tax, so we've had a bed tax in place, and it's gone to support 5 agencies, and that would be the Regional Chamber of Commerce, the Chamber, the EDC, the Historical Society, Center for the Arts, and the Downtown Association. These groups have worked in various ways to bring tourism here. The money, the bed tax, is a tax that in the 90s was levied by the City of Globe on the transient housing, the motels, hotels that we have here. And then we collect that tax as we do other sales tax. It's a 3%. It went back and forth. I've seen the history. It's gone back and forth. Traditionally, we had always relied upon the groups to come together and decide what the split would be, and I don't know that much on the history of how they determined, but it's always been kind of something that we've looked at and been curious about. Why is not an equal split? And historically, the Gila County Historical Society had been at 15%. You had Center for the Arts and Downtown Association at 20%, and then EDC and Chamber at 22.5% of the money. We have also historically passed through the full amount of the bed tax collected to these 5 organizations. Now, Mayor, under your leadership, when you were elected in 2017, took office, and under the council since then, we have gone away from being on the sidelines of economic development and moved forward, and we know the story that we have become active cheerleaders in doing our own tourism efforts in cooperation and side by side with these bed tax organizations, and we've done lots of different projects, and don't want to go through the history. One of the key projects that we, the city, have done recently, well, about 2 years now, is First Friday. And so First Friday, pretty much, I think 10, if not 12 months a year, we put together an event that is becoming very popular, both with our local residents and very popular as a destination event to come up and do. It's growing and been very popular. You know the story on that. At the last budget cycle, when we were putting the budget together, I think it was this conversation happened May 23rd of 2023, we talked about including our First Friday operations as a recipient of the bed tax funds. We've been pulling in between 230 and 250,000 a year, splitting that between the five organizations. Now we're looking at taking that and splitting it 6 ways. And at the same time, I think everybody always asks, Gila County Historical Society only getting 15%. We thought it would be a fairer thing to do to just split everything, not through a division based on something arbitrary, but just an equal split. You got 6 groups, split it, split the full amount of the bed tax between the 6 organizations. It comes out to 16.66%, and it goes on. But that was adopted and included in the budget this year. So it's worked out well. The sheet that I passed out shows that now this is an annual projected. It's hard to nail down the numbers because there's about a 2-month lag in there. But I'm looking right now. We have July to November distribution, and if you include June to get an average, we're pulling in, I think, about 2,000 or 1,000. 100,000, 115,000. If I did a spread of what the last 12 months of bed tax were, it comes out to 237,857. Now that's just a good way to get a handle. It goes up and down, but it's usually pretty steady. And so when we pass this split, this chart that I have here, you have the new split at 16.6. And then the new 1-year amounts, which is running about 39,000, is where we were. And this is based on projected this year. When we passed this, we thought we'd be about 41,000 per organization, but the numbers coming a little bit lower than they were. But who knows? They may raise up in 2024. In comparison, we projected the old split. If you see the old split for 1 year, you can see that there's a difference in what the groups would have done, and that change is projected in that column that says change. So I'll just read it through. Right now, for the Globe Miami Regional Chamber of Commerce, we're looking at an annual distribution about 39,626. If it had been the old split of the same number, it had been 53,000, and there's about a change of a negative 13,000. I'm just going to round them off to thousands. Southern Gila County, same, because it's a 22.5. We're projecting 39,000. It would have been 53, so about 13,000 loss for EDC. Historical Society, they're estimated to collect the 39,000. Under the old split, they would have collected 35,000, and so they're actually going to net an additional 4,000 for them. Cobra Valley Center for the Arts, they're 20%, and so instead of they're receiving the 39,000, but about 47,000 is what was projected. So about 8,000 is the difference of what they would have under the old system and the new system, and then the same with the 39 to the 47 on the Downtown Association. Okay. Now, the changes that we're also doing at the same time, and they're kind of listed down here at the bottom, but I'll go over this. We were doing a 4-time distribution every quarter, and if you remember, we were getting hung up with a couple of things. People were slow to get their distributions, and we had the one meeting the May before this one where I think we had a total of 9 different people or 9 different requests to handle in one meeting. Okay, and that had with one group that hadn't done any that year. Now there are reasons, and it was explained, and everybody understood that. But we're like, can't we do the distributions a little bit cleaner? And so we're combining them, and we're doing biannual rather than quarterly. So there'll be a fall distribution. The budget is passed in July. There'll be a fall distribution, so we'll go through the 6 months, which we just completed, and then between now and the end of February, people will be able to submit and request those numbers, and it'll be based on the raw collection going in. So we'll have a 2-month window for people to pass their same system, pass a resolution with their group, put together a report and some budget numbers, and then come to council. The additional thing that we're asking for is that a member of the organization appear when they're making the distribution request, so we can kind of hear how they're doing. You know, this is money, fiduciary responsibility by a council to make sure this money is being well spent. Legal responsibility that is meant to be spent towards advancing tourism. And also, it's a good way for us to find out what these organizations are doing, their challenges, their achievements, and just hear from them. It's usually it's interesting, and there's lots of good questions. So we're expanding from 1 presentation to 2, but submissions are only 2 rather than 4, and we think it'll go smoother on that. The other major change is the fact that when the last submission in new system, it will be the spring submission. So from January to July, we need to get that spring distribution distributed before the end of the budget cycle, because this money is collected during in this case, the 23-24 budget year. It's been budgeted in 23-24, and if it's not spent in 23-24, and that would be council voting to accept it, and us, and with that vote, then it has been spent, and we allocate the check. That needs to happen before July 1 of the new budget cycle, so it doesn't cross over budgets. So in order to facilitate that, we're doing an average, and we will look at the first 3 months, January, February, March, and then project that out into a 6-month number and distribute that. Now we're still distributing pretty close to actuals. It may vary a little bit, but what we don't want to do is, if let's say something happened, I don't know what, and you know, there was a drop off or something like that, we don't want to distribute more than we actually take in. It won't be to the penny, but I think the ebb and flow of a little higher, a little lower, I think it'll work its way out, and it's really good to do the timely distribution. The other piece, so the memo that is in your packet is a modification of the 2019 letter that we put out, and that 2019 that's the letter that everybody signed and countersigned, that we set delegates or representatives from each. So every member of council is assigned to, well, 5 members are assigned to a bed tax organization to have a ex officio seat on or is it voting? I'm trying to remember if it's voting or non-voting. Yeah, a voting seat on these bed taxes, and there are a lot of rule changes there. So what staff is asking you to approve tonight is modification to that 2019 letter, which modifies the number of distributions from 4 to 2, the presentations from 1 to 2, and then the deadlines. But also because it is important to realize that the split is not a custom split, but now across the board, 16.66%, and acknowledge the fact that we are including the First Friday events. This does not go into the general fund. This does not go into economic development fund. This goes into a line item called First Friday, and I don't know if I have the number. I could find it, and I will tell you that it pays about 1/3 of that line item. Okay, so we're looking at line item as we budgeted 126,000 in there, and we'll only recognize about 40,000 from the bed tax. So it's not covering our First Friday, but it takes a little bit of the edge off of that. And I think it allows us to do really cool First Friday stuff: the rock climb, the ice skating, the snow bubble that everybody took their picture in. All those things, we get some pretty cool stuff up here, and so it's important that we keep funding this to have the same results. So hopefully that's a not too long, but the clear explanation of kind of what we're asking. And the importance of this is because we do have distributions coming up. They're contacting the clerk, and so we want to make sure that we document the changes that were discussed in the budget passage into information for the requirements of the bed tax organizations. Questions?
Questions or comments for Paul?
The only question I would have is since we're introducing this tonight, have the bed tax people been informed of it?
The bed tax people, we know they're, we know how well people watch agendas around here from last night. So, but it was, we had set out to notify them, but I don't know that we contacted each one individually. But we're not asking for final approval. I think what we would do is ask that you move this to the next meeting and go ahead and we'll put it on the agenda again. And if it's council pleasure, we can send a note to someone in the organization. Okay.
I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah.
simply because-
Mike, can you go ahead and talk in your mic, I think?
Oh,
I think that would be a good idea because, it's a big change.
yeah.
But some of them are, gonna make a little bit less money, but some of them are gonna make a little bit more money, but it'll all be equal.
Yeah.
Which I think is a good thing.
Right.
So, yeah, I'd just make a suggestion that we notify them so they can attend the meeting or when we're gonna have it.
And I think the most important change in here is the deadline, because I think that's really important, because we're hoping at some point we have a clean audit, and this, if we don't change this now, we won't have that clean audit. So I think that's the most impactful change. I know that we talked about this in May about the change in the split and the inclusion of First Friday, so that shouldn't be a shock to anybody. But I think it's good that we make sure they realize that they the new process and that they need to get their submissions in, and I think it'd be out of courtesy to remind everybody, hey, the window is opening for submissions. We're now accepting submissions.
It looks good to me. I've always kind of questioned, how come this guy gets more than the other guy,
Yeah, everybody kind of turned their head and looked and like,
Yeah. So, no, I think it's good. I think it's a good proposal.
I agree with Mike also moving this forward to give the opportunity to allow the bed tax organizations to understand it. I agree with it, I support it. I think we can justify, the numbers justifying everything we do can justify what we're doing with this. But I think it's important that they understand that we have to get those numbers in or those presentation distributions before our fiscal year is over, and we've been kind of laxed in that. And that makes it difficult to get a clean audit when we're doing stuff like that. So can we, as they do their presentation, if you're talking twice a year, can we stagger those like in a 6-week period or 3 council meetings instead of having all 6 presenting at one time?
Well, it only
instead of staggered?
Yeah, it would be for the bed tax groups. It would be 5. We can control the First Friday presentation, and yeah, we don't want to have them all come to the next meeting, and it's easier to do in the fall, the ones coming up in the next now and in February, but it's the ones in May and June that will be the ones that are, we may have a night where we have 3 or 4 of them, okay, and so I think that we can encourage them to get here early and try to space it out. We do, but I think we'll just have to do our best. I don't know how to hit that window with 4 meetings for 5 presentations. You're gonna get doubled up on one of them at least. And I don't think it would be. I think it'd be troublesome if we tried to say only 1 per meeting, just as we get into this, because we've trying to get everybody to hit that 2-month window would be really important. But if we try to get them that, hey, your night is this or this or this, I mean, yeah, I'm trying to think of how we could draw straws and say who's got the best slot. I don't know.
Can we do it in a special presentation, or does it have to be an agenda item for their presentation?
I mean, we can do it as a special meeting, if we wanted to. I would project that, you know, June 28th of 2024, we may be having a special meeting where it's nothing but presentations. But Mr. Mayor, members of council, this council has been so available for special meetings. When the time crunch is on, you guys have always stepped up, and you will put your personal issue, you know, life aside to come and be here for us. And so,
Well, that's gonna change.
you know, and the other thing I will say, you know, we had intended to do a notification of, we will do a notification of to the bed tax organizations, but I do believe people watch agendas around here, and that is the beauty of the rule. The rule is that there's 2 presentations per item, so just in case somebody hears about it the day after, oh my gosh, they had that on the agenda, and they can come back, and it'll be on in 2 weeks. Also, I don't think they read the language of the agenda in the city of Phoenix, or any other city where the radio is so kind to read through the agenda. Makes me cringe sometimes, but it's like, you know, I'm like, make sure my spelling's right and my grammar's right. But no, I think that we are a very transparent council, and we are a very transparent community and very involved, as you said about Councilman Gonzalez, about participation. I would fair to bet that the bed tax organizations know this is on the agenda tonight, and I think we do our policy of transparency and bring it back in 2 weeks.
Good. Oh, just one more question I had. Are we still getting bed tax money from Dream Manor?
Yes.
We're still getting distribution on that?
Yeah. When they are a separate organization, and they have to pay TPT. They're in the city of Globe. So, but I'll say nothing else.
Okay.
And I will say that we have to be very careful about. And so, what I will say is that we have been in contact with the managers of Dream Manor, and they are telling us that they are functioning exactly the same way they had before in how they do business. I'll leave it at that. Okay.
Motion to move this forward.
Mr. Mayor, if there's no further discussion, I would make a motion that we move the bed tax proposal to the next available meeting.
Second.
Motion and second for moving item 5B forward to the next meeting. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Motion passed. Item 5C, discussion and consideration to approve the U.S. Department of Transportation Safe Street Grant number GS-24-61-05015, sponsored by Senator Mark Kelly for the City of Globe Downtown District Project for $124,846.39, and approve an additional $31,000 match to be funded from account number 12-80-52200 capital outlay construction, and request to waive section 2-4-10A prior discussion rule. And we have Connie.
Mayor, members of council, city manager, thank you. So this is the U.S. Department of Transportation Safe Street Grants and Roads for All. We were awarded it in December in the amount of $124,846.39. Our match is $31,000, which brings us to a total of $155,846.39. And also the match account number, which you read, is out of capital outlay. It's $1280,52200. And just to bring attention to a little bit about this grant, it does have a Vision Zero initiative component to it. And I'll let Mayor talk a little bit about that. And then it has a huge public engagement component with it that will be a first in this area, I think. And then also, it's a planning action grant, so it's a temporary application grant. So we're gonna use from what the Department of Transportation has listed that we can use, and we can agree together with our public engagement piece, and we can take that forward, and we can put temporary applications. And if you will, I'm gonna go up to the picture to show you our demonstration corridor, and then I'll flip it around so that council can see the corridor as well. So the corridor is on the off of the US 60 and here, all the way through West Street to the end, going out onto Justice Road. So that is what you would call our prototype corridor. That's where all the temporary applications will be assimilated. Also, there will be signs that'll announce to the public that there are temporary applications for 18 months in this corridor. And again, I just want to just real quick just say a couple of the temporary applications that could be used. So it will also help our struggling pedestrians. We want to try and narrow the corridor for speed, naturally narrow the corridor instead of posting a speed limit sign. So some of those temporary applications could include solar-powered pedestrian beacons, installation of paint for the crosswalks, such as what they are referred to as piano keys, and signage and pop-up, possibly a bike lane, I don't know, narrowing the corridor treatments on the side, maybe curb extension or bulb outs, some landscaping elements. One of the elements of this grant is to try and use recycled parts from, and that could be us using something we have recycled or something from somewhere else, maybe another city, maybe they want to donate items to us. So we would do that. Also, we could put out plastic delineators in order to, segregate, narrowing the corridor. There is also a data collection component. We had discussed with John on Google a counter to collect the data, where highway counter. So we'll put in for that. Also, one of the biggest components of this is that the public will have involvement before, during, and after. So, there'll be a formal wrap-up. The other huge component of this grant is that the data that we extract from this temporary application, we will be able to use this and apply for an implementation grant. So I'm just going to step over to the map again. So this is just a portion of the streets here that in that implementation grant will be for all of the streets of the city of Globe. So minus the US 60, okay, because that's owned by the US. We don't own those streets. We can't apply a grant towards it. However, in this process with our stakeholders, we're going to invite the Arizona Department of Transportation and be part of the public engagement piece to help us while we're implementing the temporary applications on the corridor. That we're going to ask them as well, what could be done for the U.S. Highway 60. Sorry. So there will be a wrap-up process with these treatments. The treatments are made to be temporary, so they will have to come down, but then they can be put back up after a month after the grant is finalized. They can then be put up, back up in a permanent status if that is what the city elects to do, if council elects to do that. Questions?
So, the way this is set up, it almost leads you to believe that if we find good solutions, that there'll possibly be another grant application to help fund that, or is this just
Right.
to identify the
So-
solutions and then
Right.
you do it on your own?
So this is one of two grant applications with the Department of Transportation. And this process, we were a four-man team. We had to go to class for it. And Mara was part of that four-man team. And then the same four-man team will be in the same classes for the implementation grant with the results from this grant, the data results, the public engagement results, the application results. You know, you have to take a ton of pictures. And then, like I said, you know, after the grant, you have to formally take down those temporary applications, but then you can put them back up if you elect to do that in a permanent status. Those specific items that were purchased by this grant application. And then you would put in, if I can refer to, do you think I should refer to the Salisbury grant? The city of Salisbury? Okay, so the city of Salisbury, they actually had the planning grant, and they did a process with a corridor in their city, a prototype, and then they put in for a $28 million implementation grant after their 18 months, and they were successful in achieving that $28 million for all of their streets.
Okay, so once you do this, just this corridor, if you get it, it gets approved, then you can go and do the rest of your city? Is that what you're saying?
The implementation grant?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Well, you would put in the scope of work and the amount of money that it would take for the items that were successful, and how much it would cost, and everywhere you want to implement that in your city. So that's when it gets into those very higher numbers, like $28 million, $38 million, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. So one thing that I've noticed is, we don't, it's against city ordinance to ride your bike on a sidewalk, but a lot of times that is the safest place to ride your bike, and thank God we don't overly enforce that, but, this is a place where we could bring that out and discuss what we could do for more bicycle.
Right.
Thing.
In this grant, you would be able, again, with the public participation, you would be able to put it all together, discuss it, and then you would also have a professional go down the corridor and make sure that this is feasible, because in the state of Arizona, you have to have 5 feet for a bike route. And so you need to have it be, whatever the applications are, they have to be feasible in this corridor.
Mariano?
I'm not trying to diss ADOT, but in the history, in my experience, they will gather front-end opinions, but they don't get middle of the project opinions, and then they don't get final opinions from the public. They do it one time. I like this strategy of getting opinions before, during, and after the life of the project, because then we have the opportunity to pick up an idea that wasn't there at the very beginning. And I think that's very far-reaching as far as trying to get an end product that as many people are satisfied as possible with the project. And then to go into the phase of build-out, you will have a handle on what that number might cost. But the point is the input from the public. I really like that a lot, to be able to have that kind of input during the life of that project on the front side. And I don't care what the comments are, just the opportunity to have your say is what I've heard in the past. Gee, I wish ADOT had asked me about this or that. This project lets us do that. What do you think? All the way through the discovery phase. So I really like that a lot. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So I'll give just a brief history on my summary of this grant also. Since I was part of the grant committee, other cities, they have implemented committees, and the mayor is part of it to try and move it forward with the council. So I was part of the grant committee, Eric was, Linda was, Connie and myself, and it's a pretty complex grant. There was a lot of training, a lot of paperwork that took place to get to this point. And again, I want to commend Connie. She did the brunt of the work, basically. I mean, this was a very tough grant. You had to have one of the qualifications. You had at least one fatality within that quarter that you're actually putting the grant for, and we did qualify with that. So that helped move it forward. This is the first time that the city of Globe has been awarded a Department of Transportation grant in over a decade. So it's huge for us. But you're right, Mariano. The key, the big part of this is the public input and the data collection. That's the key of it. And that's going to take probably 40% of the grant, because you're going to hire a coordinator to run these public hearings, so we get input from the public, and then they're going to be the ones that follow through, or another company would collect the data. The thing behind this is the Vision Zero is that we want to make changes, safety changes, and you could be looking at stop signs, you could be looking at crosswalks, narrowing the streets, whatever it is. And the other thing that we want to make sure, because we have a historic district, that we want to maintain the integrity of the historic downtown. So anything changes that we want to make, that they mesh with what our historic downtown should look like. So really the mission is to make our streets safer, and it's a commitment from us. This is just a planning grant, just doing temporary stuff for 18 months, but if we can show data and get good public input, I think we'd be successful. That's the ultimate goal, is to get the implementation grant to make things permanent, and then from there you can extend to other streets within your city. Most of our fatalities are on the highway, but that's ADOT's. So hopefully by bringing them in early, maybe they can start implementing some changes. We have some areas on US 60 that need changes, crosswalks, lighting. I mean, there's a lot of dangerous areas. So I think it's an opportune time for us, because of economic development, because of tourism, we're now seeing more traffic downtown, pedestrian, car traffic. So if we're ahead of the game by implementing some safety changes to our downtown corridor, I mean, it's going to be huge for the safety of not only our residents but visitors in the end. So again, it's a 18-month planning. Hopefully that we're successful in 18 months and we can make some of these changes permanent.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, just a couple things. We were in the City of Globe was invited to participate in this boot camp through the National League of Cities, which is trying to focus on underserved people, and that is one of the direct benefits we have from our participation with the National League of Cities and our regional and now approach to federal funds, and the feds are looking to get underserved communities like ourselves participating in these competitive grants, and the National League of Cities are trying to facilitate that for us. Also, this gets us into where we have proven solutions, and the implementation will come, and they will assist us with those also. So this is kind of a team effort that we're doing, and we're happy to be involved. The other, just on a more on technical side, the match for this, the $31,000, is being pulled from our excise tax. This is money we get from the half cent from the county. It is a non-federal match, so you can't match federal money with federal money. So this is coming from the county that we get this money. Anyway, so just for the technical side, we do have every grant we worry about the match and where we can get that, and that it's compatible. But we've done our homework and checked with Tina Allen, our budget manager.
Questions or comments? And this is something, since Connie, correct me if I'm wrong, we want to waive the rules in order to
Yes.
move forward with the award. Now, would this be a ratification, or is this since we were awarded the grant?
No, this is acceptance. So we've been
Acceptance of the
offered, but we
grant.
have not
Yeah,
accepted yet.
So, we would humbly request that you waive the rule and, go ahead and accept this award for GS 2461-05015, from the Department of Transportation Safe Streets Grant.
I just want to emphasize that public input's going to be important, but it's truly a commitment from this council to implement this Vision Zero planning in order to make our streets safer in the corridor.
Mr. Mayor, I would move that we approve grant GS 2461-05015, sponsored by Senator Mark Kelly for the City of Globe Downtown District project for $124,846.39, and approve the additional $31,000 match to be funded from account 12-80-52200 capital outlay construction, and request to waive the prior discussion rule.
Second?
We have a motion and a second for approval of item 5C. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Any opposed, any abstaining? Motion passes. Thank you, Connie.
Thank you.
Thank you. We go to action item 6A, consideration to approve resolution number 1884, a resolution adopting the Public Safety Retirement System 457B Deferred Compensation Plan. Paul and Shelley, can you read resolution 1884, please?
Resolution number 1884, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Globe, Gila County, Arizona, adopting a public safety retirement system 457B deferred compensation plan. Would council please with the reading?
Yes.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, we talked about this before. The one question that council had was what triggered this request for a change, and I went back and found the bill, pulled it up. This is one of about 11 different items that were brought forward by ASRS to the legislature to separate some of the stuff out. The primary motive of ASRS was to allow early payments and help ease the pain on cities with our PSPRS payments that we have to do and prepaying some of those. This was a line on there that they wanted to ask PSPRS to do their own account. I don't know. I'm imagining that this is a technical change that was asked for by ASRS so that we had two different systems. Probably, just as we like to separate things out so that we can track them better. I don't know. I don't know if it relates to Tier 3 fire caused by that. When we were down in the league, I did ask one of the lobbyists, and they don't remember what the trigger was on that. And so I was unable, just on my cursory review, to figure out, what the motive behind this. But it's very simple.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Fernando.
I'm surprised that they made it, because it's just deferred comp. All they're doing is voluntarily taking some income out of their check and deferring it to the future, so that it takes it out of their taxable income now,
Yeah.
and then when they go to pull it, then it becomes taxable income. But it looks like they just didn't want to do it through public safety, and are doing it through nationwide retirement, so it's allowing them to do it through this other organization.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, Councilman Shipley, I think both of them, both the ASRS version and the public safety version, are both through nationwide.
Mhm.
Yes. But they just, for somewhere, somebody asked, and the legislature included it as part of this package. And I will tell you that many, every year, pretty much every state agency, ADOT to them, have a set of rules and changes and tweaks to their codes and things like that, and they come up and they're pretty geeky is probably the best way to say it, and I'm sure there's some CPAs out there that understand this, but I haven't found that person yet.
It's not hard. It's not.
I think you might
It's
be
just
right,
deferred
Paul.
comp.
Yeah, but why they wanted two separate versions for two separate plans.
Well,
You-
the state one is very, very conservative. They don't hardly invest in anything that's got any risk, so it's, your upside is like Zippo.
Yeah.
And so it's very safe, but most people, you know, you got 25 years to retire, you can get into stocks and, you know, capital accounts and, yeah.
And it might be the fact of the documentation that you were talking about, who's gonna do it, because from 2010 till I retired for 5 years, I was under Nationwide, and I had a 457 account besides my public safety account. So, but it still ran through the city and everything, so this is just a change, I think, is who's gonna report it or whatever.
Yeah. The reporting is such. In the future, if I do come across someone that can answer the question, Nick Ponder is probably my next source. He was the guru on ASRS and some of the stuff, and see if he knows.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve resolution number 1884 as written.
Second.
Motion and second for approval of item 6A, resolution number 1884. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Motion passed. Item 6B, consideration to approve agreement number IGA number 2024-0057 with the Arizona Department of Revenue for state tax collection and distribution. Paul.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, we're bringing this back for final approval. It's something that we do every year, and if you have any further questions, Shelley would be happy to answer them.
Can we ask them to add another box to say what city do you actually have your business in? So maybe
Zip codes would take care of that.
They're not changing the zip codes.
Yeah.
We've beat that horse dead before.
Oh, yeah.
Where your business and where you live, both, you know.
The question would be the physical address of your business as opposed to the mailing address. If they ask the physical address, then we would not have as many problems as we have.
And Mr. Mayor, if there's no further discussion, I'll make a motion to approve agreement IGA 2024-0057 with the Arizona Department of Revenue for the state tax collection and distribution administration.
Second.
Motion and second for approval of item 6B. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Motion passed. Item 6C, consideration to approve agreement number IGA-2024-0048 between the City of Globe, Tri-City Fire District, and the Town of Miami for fire protection services to include the approval of the fee schedule attached as Exhibit A. Chief Robinson.
Mr. Mayor, council members, we're bringing back for final approval the agreement that we discussed in the last meeting, the continuation of the three-way agreement that we had between the Town of Miami and Tri-City Fire District and us to provide as-needed fire service to the town. Again, that rate, as discussed before, hasn't changed with how that fee schedule is structured, but that fee schedule is specific to the Town of Miami for those services. The Town of Miami has been fairly prompt in taking care of any invoices that have been submitted to those regarding incidents that we've had within the city limits. Are there any questions?
We just had that fire,
Right.
just recently, and just out of curiosity, like, how much do we contribute to a fire like that? Is it a third of the force? Is it more, half? I'm just kind of curious as to how big of a role we play.
If we're probably contributing about anywhere between a fourth to a half, or a fourth to a third, depending on the incident and the size of the incident with the outside people. When we look at it, for that incident, we had we had a chief officer, our rehab unit, and a pumper truck on that, for a total of, I think we had eight out of probably 20 personnel that were ultimately on that scene.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, Chief Robinson, I know on that fire, the pumper truck was there. There was a water supply through the hydrants, but because of the difficult location, you brought the pumper in. Is that my understanding? It wasn't because of lack of water. It was just trying to get the water to the right place.
Correct. Where that one was at it's just a logistically challenging area. Ultimately, initially we operated off both hydrant water and a water tender, feeding from one side. Ultimately, once we got things established, kind of, because of the challenge that we had with the structure itself and the terrain that's there, ultimately we switched around and were able to operate just off hydrant water, but we did have an uninterrupted water supply, and the nature of the fire that we had made it difficult to extinguish. And I think ultimately personnel were on that scene a majority of the night just to keep it contained to that one structure.
And Chief, we're still going with a single invoice, and is Tri-City still do the
Correct.
administration of
Correct.
the invoices?
So we submit an invoice directly to Tri-City, who in turn submits it over to the town of Miami, and then town of Miami pays Tri-City, and then we invoice back or that gets placed back or returned back to us with a check from Tri-City. We do the same thing. We've done the same thing in the past with Capstone Mine. Typically, we do the invoicing on our side on that one.
Do we have combination contracts also with Freeport, Capstone, and BHP where we are compensated for responding to those industrial sites?
Capstone we have in the past. The others, no, we have not.
Is there well, that's just my opinion. I think it's something that we need to look into, that we need to be part of that contract also, because we supply equipment and manpower in the same capacity as Tri-City.
And I will tell you, that is a discussion that Chief Granger and I have already started on approaching those entities regarding that, because technically they don't lie within a service boundary for any of the fire protection entities.
Great, thank you. Fernando?
I'm just curious. I know that Joe Bracamani used to be our fire causation expert. Do we have someone on hand now that still does that?
We do. We brought Tom Mertza back full time as the fire marshal. When we deal with the town of Miami, that has to be based on a specific request for availability, and then that in turn is also a billable thing.
So it's up to them whether they ask for that service or not.
Correct.
Chief, can Miami still bring in like the State Fire Marshal's Office and their investigators if we don't have capacity, or it's really rare?
I do not believe that the State Fire Marshal's Office has the capacity to facilitate those type of things. I have not heard of them doing any in recent history. The Fire Marshal's Office several years ago, when with appropriations was cut significantly. They started to grow some of that back, but that's one of the challenges we face is in the fire service with training and with other things related to State Fire Marshal's offices, where other states have mandates that office exist. The state of Arizona does not mandate that office exist in any type of specific configuration, so they're subject to appropriations and what's available to support them and their mission.
And one last question, I'm sorry. So if Miami wanted an investigation, an arson investigation on a home or a commercial building, the town of Miami would have to request it and pay for those services?
The town of Miami would have to request it and pay for those services. Correct.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to go ahead and make the motion to approve agreement number IGA 2024-0048 between the City of Globe, Tri-City Fire District, and the Town of Miami for fire protection services to include the approval of the fee schedule attached as Exhibit A.
Second?
Motion and second for approval of item 6C. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Motion passed. Thank you, Chief. Oh, you're up next still. Item D, consideration to approve subscription agreement number SUB 2024-0062 with CNM Communication LLC for the 800 megahertz radio service for the Globe Fire Department for an annual amount not to exceed $10,000 funded from account number 1056-51216 Communications.
Mr. Mayor, council members, again, this brings back the agreement that we discussed last meeting that provides for the service side of our new radio system. That radio system is currently operational. All public safety entities in this area are operating off of that radio system. We operate off that system using identical equipment across the board. That equipment was purchased through the use of Homeland Security funds over the course of 2 grant cycles. Because this is a public-private partnership, the private side of this entity requires that we have a subscriber agreement that goes along with each radio that this in turn pays for. Again, as we do that, where we would have to spend millions in infrastructure developments, that infrastructure already exists. We just tap into that infrastructure through these agreements that allow us to use it and give us priority on that system for the public safety use. We did hash out a few items in the agreement. Mr. Sims was satisfied with where we ended up, and this is brought back to you for final approval and any questions you may have.
Mr. Mayor, just a comment. During my tenure with Gila County, this was a dream. This was the Holy Ghost, the Holy Grail, to have interconnectivity across a network that was a high-quality network in the rural counties. It just couldn't happen at that time, although there was Homeland Security money available at that time. It was the infrastructure, the many radio towers, the many repeaters. It's a different technology when you go to 800 megahertz, and that was a dream of many of the rural counties. And here we are, just signing off on an agreement that does it for us, working hand in hand with private industry. It's important, and it's vital, and it certainly has been achieved. And I compliment all the agencies and private enterprise for making it happen. It's a dream come true, and I'm really proud to see this. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any questions, comments? Chief, is it working, the 800 megahertz for our area? I know that was a challenge in the past.
Excuse me. Yeah, so the system in question has towers and infrastructure throughout a large portion of the state. The way ours is designed, we have one channel countywide that will locate and use any of the infrastructure that's through the state. The system or the channels that we have specifically will locate specific towers that regionally affect us. So Mount Orge, Signal Peak, Madera Peak, Sackatone, those that are likely to be reachable from a point within the county. Our system with those channels will pick up and recognize, and you'll pick up whatever tower is available. All you do is key to mic. You don't have to switch channels. You don't have to do anything like that if you're on one of those channels.
Great.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve subscription agreement number sub-2024-0062 with CNM Communication LLC for 800 megahertz radio service for the Globe Fire Department for an annual amount not to exceed $10,000, funded from account number 10-56-51216, Communications.
Second?
Motion second for approval of item 6D. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Motion passed. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Late agenda items, none?
We have none.
Second call to the public. Do we have anybody online?
We have one. So this is from, Miss Sherry Rice, and, she is asking why don't the B and Bs have a bed tax?
Who?
And The.
The
Airbnb?
You
The
know,
overnight
I'm-
rentals, yeah.
I'm not gonna interpret
Yeah, okay.
the B and Bs. So I'm assuming Airbnbs. And that's a, you know, like I say, this is a statement, it's something that we can
Address.
try to follow up with her. And the answer is, you know, not something that will probably be very firm or concrete as to why they don't.
That'd be interesting to see on your research if other cities are doing Airbnbs.
Yeah. Oh, there is a, we've been working on that. And I will tell you that we shouldn't probably have this conversation.
Okay.
Oh.
Scheduling of meetings.
Yes. We, so, a couple things, and Mayor, I think we had talked, and we've been working on this, but, we're coming up soon on doing our strategic action plan. Everybody's very busy, and we have things going on. RCAC is coming second week in February, first week in February, a little quick. We are looking at a window of the third week in February, which is the week of the 19th, but the 19th is President's Day, a federal holiday, and so we are not, normal operation is not open. And so from that, we are looking at the 20th, 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. Usually the day after a 3-day weekend, not always, you know, we're to throw an event, it's nice to have a little bit of time to get organized the day before. So we wanted to check everybody's availability for possibly the 21st or the 22nd of February. We could go the 23rd, or find out your openness on that. Anybody have anything they know between that spread of the 20th to 23rd?
Linda was asking if we sent out an email for the 23rd.
Yeah, that's what I got, the
Okay.
23rd, but
Yeah.
that's a
And-
Friday.
Yeah, so the 23rd is
Yeah.
staff preferred.
After you get off
Yeah.
work. Okay.
Well, I don't know, I asked her what times we were looking for, and she just said that earlier we go, the earlier we get
I
out.
think we're talking about 2 o'clock
I
start.
already got on my calendar for 2 to 5.
Okay.
2 to 5 on the
5.
23rd,
Mm-hmm.
Friday?
Yeah.
Have to make it work. Friday's a bad day. 2:30, but still, there's more to just closing. Well, if everybody else is good, I'll make it work.
Okay, it seems like everybody's on board. She said that she checked with Freddie also. And actually Jesse would prefer earlier, but I think 2 o'clock is probably a good compromise.
I couldn't go any
Yeah.
earlier.
So that would be the date. We're still not sure on the location.
I was just gonna ask that.
But we'll let you know. But a lot of times the location depends on the date that we pick, so we can see what's available for that day. So anything that you're thinking?
We have it at Copperhead, we can help you clean up, so you can help. Well, I'll just clean it up, and then we can just have our meeting.
I'll stay in the back.
So the,
Good.
in order, and this will help us because we do have our DC trip coming and we need some decisions made before we go there. And then also, we had scheduled to have the update on the financial update from Pat Walker, Dennis Osich, and Tina Allen on their findings and where they are with the budget. We definitely want to have that meeting prior to the strategic action plan, so you kind of know, you know, where we're at on that, and it make more meaningful out of that. But due to their schedules, the 13th is not going to work for them. I think that there's travel going on, and it's just right on top of some travel. We were proposing that we hold instead of the night of the 13th, that we held a standalone meeting on the 16th, starting at, I think, 3 o'clock. And I think that we have 2 hours, 3 to 5. That'll give you a little bit more time, so you can get whatever you need to get taken care of. So that's pretty locked in, but unless anybody has any major conflicts,
February 16th?
it'd be Friday, February 16th at 3 o'clock.
This meeting.
And this would be the finance update, single item, but it'd be a special council meeting.
What time?
3 o'clock start. Okay, and we will send, if everybody's okay with that, I wanted to check, we will send out, invites and get everything locked up. It'll be here, in council chambers. We're hoping to have we're working on locations, but, this helps us greatly to have both these dates, the 23rd and the 16th. Okay. So.
Can we go to that folder that had all the financial projections and stuff?
Right, it's good, we're gonna take a look at the budget projections and see, and then, the budget projections, the budget projections are based on the outcome of the prior year budget, and now that we've gone through and dug through all the prior year budget, if that comes out to what we thought it was, then this year's budget, based on that, will be out. And so it's just a matter of looking back and us getting prepared for the audit also. So those are the two items we had for scheduled meetings. So I think that's all we have on that.
Okay. Consideration of future agenda items?
I have one, Mayor. I went to a meeting last month in Phoenix, and there was a group of leaders. And there was this group that is going to put an initiative on the ballot for open primaries. And so I thought it might be interesting to have them present so that we know more about that issue when it comes. So I didn't know if that was something that we could get on a future council agenda.
So Mr. Mayor, members of council, Councilman Shipley, I think that it's an interesting concept. It's a national concept. It's been done in other states, and it's not relevant to our elections. And so I would see that the council meeting would not be the best venue for something like that. I don't think that we try to stay focused on local and concerns, and then federal concerns as federal and state, mainly state concerns as they affect us. There would be no direct impact on how we elect council members. And so I see it as more of something for a different venue rather than a council meeting.
Maybe the county?
Well, yeah, because he's right. It's not. We're nonpartisan, so we don't.
It might confuse everybody.
Right. But it's going to be on the ballot, so I just thought this would be
Yeah,
a good place. So that's
and
why.
we have to be very careful about things on the ballot that we're not. And that if it's going to be on the ballot, what was that one item that Bill saved us from? I can't remember. But we have to be very careful about taking a stand. So I would.
Well, I don't think I was asking for a stand. I was just thinking more of an educational thing.
Yeah.
But you're right. This is nonpartisan, so it wouldn't really directly affect the city.
Right. And so, but anyway, so thank you though. I don't know how, I didn't know they were getting that close. So. Anyone else with possible future agenda items? I know that, well, and we have a rolling list of agenda items now, but if there's anything that you've been wanting to do or add or anything like that, this would be the chance to do that. Nope.
Work group report, we did have a public safety meeting on January 11th, and I think we explained it pretty extensively. All we talked about was a SAFE grant.
Yeah, so the discussion it was a preview discussion from the discussion we had tonight with Connie's presentation. More staff was involved and a little bit more feedback, but I think the 3 members were supportive, and I don't want to speak for the 3 members, but it helps us get, some details, so when it comes here, it goes, everybody's kind of educated.
Motion to adjourn.
Move.
Second?
Motion a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you for attending.